Hey, Andy here. Well, if it hasn't happened to you personally, surely you've seen an unlucky soul on the side of the highway, sweltering in the summer heat with a common and most irritating issue, an overheated engine. Few problems with a car are as disruptive as an engine overheating, and both the cost and time to repair it are almost guaranteed to be frustrating. But why does this happen, and what can you do to avoid this fate? I'm going to tell you all you need to know about the reasons for a car overheating, how to deal with it, and maybe most importantly, how to prevent it. When an engine's heat gauge climbs up into the red zone, it's almost always because there's a problem with the cooling system. Whether you drive an economically priced subcompact, a monster pickup, or a high-revving sports car, it's designed to withstand normal operating conditions of all kinds, heat or cold related. An engine has a temperature sweet spot for efficiency, and exceeding that temperature can have devastating consequences. There are a bunch of reasons the temperature could exceed this range. Coolant, or antifreeze, is the liquid that circulates in the cooling system. If it's low, a pocket of air, called an airlock, can sit at the highest point in the engine and prevent the coolant from circulating. When that happens, the coolant temperature continues to climb, with the inevitable result being a plume of steam coming from your engine bay. Having low coolant usually indicates a leak in the system, but not always. Sometimes a small amount of coolant evaporates over time, or is consumed by the engine by seeping past the head gasket. That's why checking the coolant level and other fluids during an oil change is advised. The water pump acts as a small turbine that pulls coolant through the cooling system. If the water pump isn't actively circulating the fluid through the cooling system, then the hot fluid can't make it to the radiator to cool down, and the cool fluid doesn't return to the engine to absorb more heat. Flow also becomes an issue if a radiator hose is collapsed. Coolant can't move through the engine and radiator if a hose is squished together on itself. Sometimes it can be due to the hose itself deteriorating and its layers separating, but it's most likely because there's a vacuum condition in the system. In most cases, it's actually the radiator cap causing the problem by not normalizing the pressure, but what you'll see is a collapsed hose. If you're getting the sickly sweet smell of coolant inside your car as the temperature gauge skyrockets, it could be a leaking heater core. This is the component that heats your car's interior on a cold day and looks like a little radiator tucked up under the dash. A leak here can cause your engine to overheat, since a leak means low coolant, which we know is bad. The thermostat is designed to stay closed until your engine reaches its operating temperature, and then it opens. A closed thermostat acts as a restriction that helps the engine heat up quickly. But if it doesn't open, the temperature continues to climb, and climb, and climb. No coolant flow is a bad thing for an engine, and it doesn't take long for a stuck thermostat to cause engine overheating. Most coolant mixtures are intended to be 50% coolant and 50% distilled water. If the coolant mixture is too concentrated, overheating can be the result. Water is a much better conductor of heat. Increasing the ratio may protect better against freezing, but can be detrimental since coolant isn't great at conducting heat on its own. The radiator is intended to transfer heat from coolant passing through it to the ambient air outside it. A radiator that's plugged or partially restricted inside will prevent the coolant from passing through effectively, holding the hot coolant in the engine for longer and driving temperatures up. A radiator can also be plugged externally. Tiny fins help disperse the heat, but if they are clogged with dirt and bugs or all dinged up from stones, it will affect the radiator's ability to radiate heat. The radiator fan draws air from outside the engine bay across the radiator to more efficiently cool the hot fluid. Regardless of whether it's an electric cooling fan or a mechanical clutch fan, if it's not working, especially when you're at a stop, it can be the reason for your car overheating. In many cars, a serpentine belt or V-belt is used to spin the water pump pulley, the fan clutch pulley, or both. Belts are made of reinforced rubber, but they can deteriorate and shred or simply snap or come off the pulleys. When that happens, the water pump doesn't pull coolant through the engine, and the cooling fan won't draw air through the radiator. And finally, a reason you might not expect. An engine's combustion chambers control mini explosions several times per second under normal operating conditions. If you continuously push the bounds of your engine's performance, be it an ill-prepared pull on a quarter-mile drag strip or hauling down the interstate with an overweight load, that extra stress and added heat from more internal combustion can cause car overheating, even if nothing else is wrong with the engine. So now we know the reasons why it may happen. But what can you do about it? Keep in mind, overheating is a serious issue and doesn't happen without a good reason. And the problem ain't gonna fix itself. When your car overheats, it's best to get off the road and out of traffic as soon as you can. Then get it looked at. If you find yourself in the middle of a situation when the engine is running up into the danger zone, here are some steps to take. It sounds counterintuitive, but turning off the AC is your first step. Air conditioning adds tons of strain to your engine that can cause temperatures to increase under the hood. Press that little snowflake button to turn off the blasting cold air and you might see the temperature gauge begin to descend. Second, crank up the heat. Again, this may seem crazy to turn up the heat in your car when it's overheating. However, doing this redirects coolant through the heater core, acting as a small secondary radiator that can help disperse heat. If you still can't get the heating under control, pull over to the side of the road and shut the engine off. Ideally, you'll want to pull over and shut it down before the temperature needle is pinned at the top of the gauge. Then wait, and with any amount of luck, you'll have stopped the problem before it's caused lasting damage. All that heat ruminating under the hood is like a little oven, so open it up, but warning, do not do it immediately. You might catch a face full of scalding steam. Never fun prospect. But once things have cooled off a bit, pop the hood and let fresh air get at and around the engine. Whatever you do, don't try to accelerate the cooling process. Pouring water or packing ice on hot metal parts can cause them to flash boil and burn you, or make them rapidly contract and warp or crack. Just let the air do its thing and cool your engine. The coolant level is most likely low, and overheating commonly forces even more out of an overflow tube. Once the engine is cooled down completely, we're talking hours later. Be safe, people. Crack open the radiator and top up the coolant. In a pinch, you can use straight water, but you'll need to adjust the coolant strength later on. Even if the problem seems to be mitigated for now, it won't fix itself. If your engine has overheated once, there's a good chance it's going to happen again, unless you do something about it. Figure out what's wrong and do the repair. If this type of diagnosis and repair is beyond your scope or comfort, take it to a shop ASAP. After all this, what if I told you that overheating is usually avoidable? Like changing the oil or rotating the tires. Yes, we made videos on those things too. Check them out below. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You may just save your sanity as well as major bucks if you follow our prophylactic guide. Check the coolant level at regular intervals, or at least every oil change. Top up coolant with the same type to prevent corrosion or gelling in the cooling system. Change the engine coolant according to your maintenance schedule to prevent buildup and acidity inside the system. Park your car in the shade or in a garage to start your trip with a cooler engine. Tint your windows to keep the cabin cooler, reducing the amount of AC you need. Pay attention to your state's limits on tint percentage. Open your windows rather than use air conditioning when possible. Get cooling system leaks fixed as soon as they're discovered. If you can, take lower traffic routes to work, avoiding potential gridlock that can elevate engine temperatures and your blood pressure. Can you drive through well-shaded areas rather than major routes? That can actually keep your operating temperature lower. Run the heat at the first sign your engine temperature is too high. Keep an extra container of pre-mixed coolant with you in your car. And finally, get routine car inspections. Do you have your own tips to add? Leave them in the comments, and please do me a favor. If you found this video informative, entertaining, or both, click that happy little like button below. It helps our algorithm and more people will get to see it. Don't forget to subscribe for more video how-tos and guides. Meantime, stay cool, fellow carheads.